Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Coop Radio presents NASCAR stuff. Should I just call it that from now on? I don't know. I think at this point I've just called it that for the last, 12 weeks of me doing this thing? Like 3 months of me doing this show and talking about NASCAR and recapping everything from the past week, which we are going to do again today. Loaded show. I'll figure. I say this every week, but I'll figure something out for the name soon enough. The funny thing is like I have all these names in my head, but every time I go to put them on paper and just see how it looks on paper, it never looks as good or sounds as good in my head or on paper as it does in my head. And so then I'm immediately like second guessing myself. I'm like, I don't know. But at this point, I'm like, it should just be Cooper Radio at this point. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't done any other regular life podcasts. I mean, I don't know if I am going to do it again. It's just so easy. It's tough because, I mean, what is my life? My life is every day is the same as everybody else's. It's not any more interesting than anybody else's. It's wake up, go to work, come back home, do stuff at home, go to bed. Wake up, go to work, come back home, do stuff at home, go back to bed. It's the same rotation, and so I'm not doing anything crazy. There's nothing really crazy happening in my life, so there's nothing really to sit down and talk about. I mean, I could be like some other people who just talk about the news of the week, but there's already so many people that do that it's tough to try to really separate yourself from other people. I mean, I listen to other people's podcasts that do that exact same thing, and they sound so much better and do so much better than I feel like I could do. And so it makes me hesitant to like try to basically just copy and paste what they're doing. You're going to listen to it and you're going to go, that sounds like so and so, or that sounds like somebody else, or X, Y, and Z, or whatever. And it's just going to sound like a diet version or a carbon copy version of somebody else, which is not really what I want to be. I want to be my own separate thing, be authentic, be different, stand out in some sort of way. And especially when it comes to NASCAR, I feel like there's nobody out. I mean, there's probably other people out there. I just haven't heard them, but there's not a lot of people out there, I should say, that are popular, that are talking about the sport like I am, in the sense of being extremely candid, not afraid to say a differing opinion, not afraid to stand on my own 2 feet and have my own opinion that is different from the status quo, it seems, and actually being honest with people. There's a lot of people that just, I mean, let's be honest. The biggest, if you want to be a popular, quote, popular NASCAR podcast, it seems like you just have to be on the Dirty Mo Media crew. If you're one of the X amount of podcasts that they have on their little social group there, then guess what? You get decent enough number. You get probably the most popular NASCAR numbers, and you're the most recognized name, because when everybody thinks of NASCAR podcasts, you think of the Dale Jr. Download, or you think of DBC, or you think of the Teardown, or you think of Denny Hamlin's actions detrimental. You think of one of those. You don't think of Coop Radio. You know what I mean? You're not thinking of me. You're not thinking of any other random Joe Schmo that's just out there doing a podcast about NASCAR. So I'm trying to build my own thing here. But that being said, speaking of building your own thing, like I said, I got a lot of stuff to cover on this episode. I'm going to try to keep it around 2 hours, but boy, oh boy, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Let's get to this. There's a lot of big pieces of news, but the biggest, I think, that was the most talked about, I mean, they're all really big pieces of news in their own separate way. We'll get to this past weekend's races and what happened in the Cup race more specifically. But let's talk about this Spire. We finally had a development, somewhat of a development. I've been talking about this for weeks. The JGR Chris Gabehart lawsuit that has been ongoing, that I've talked about not really having too many updates, not really having too much talkable material to really bring up on the podcast. We finally got something this past week, and it came off of the heels of the Jeff Dickerson, who went on the Gluckcast a few days ago before this weekend's races. And it's about 6.5 minutes. I'm going to play the whole thing because there's a lot of talk on Twitter, a lot of talk on Instagram, a lot of people giving their opinions on Jeff Dickerson specifically after this snippet came out. And I can't lie, a lot of it really does seem divided in a lot of different ways, but a lot of the stuff that I at least saw was very against Jeff Dickerson, was very against his comments, was very much bashing him, and a lot of the people I saw were just saying something like he comes off as an asshole, he comes off as like he's got a giant ego, or he comes off as this, stuck-up guy, or, whatever the comments were. A lot of it was just, he comes off very cocky, I think was the word I saw the most, as far as the description of Jeff. So, look, I didn't see the clip until probably a few minutes before the podcast here, and so I didn't really have a comment on him. I didn't really have any thoughts on him, but for those of the people who obviously just see other people's comments and see other people's reactions to what Jeff had to say, I'm going to go ahead and play the clip. So, like I said, it's about 6.5 minutes, so it's going to be a little bit here of just listening to somebody else talk for a minute, but this is Jeff Dickerson on the Gluckcast. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, Jeff Dickerson is the Spire Motorsports owner. So to catch everybody else up on this, right now there's a lawsuit between JGR and Chris Gabehart, who Chris Gabehart obviously used to work for JGR, was a crew chief there, was then in a higher role. I don't even remember what he was technically called, if he was just, like the team overseer, or, like oversaw all the teams, or whatever the term is there, who cares? But basically he played a pretty big role at JGR for quite a good amount of time. And recently, he left the team under some very dubious circumstances. We obviously heard some weeks back him make a comment, or there was a statement that came out about one of Gabehart's frustrations within JGR was the superficial treatment that Ty Gibbs would have that other drivers wouldn't get, amongst other things to do with the team. But anyways, Gabehart left JGR and is now working for Spire Motorsports. And obviously, when you go from one team to another team, you're going to carry some knowledge with you. Whatever knowledge that you gained at the time of your previous employer, you are going to carry with you. Now, JGR is claiming that Gabehart took a little bit more than just general knowledge with him, and in their words, quote, shared secrets that Gabehart was not, basically, in their words, not allowed to take with them. So Jeff Dickerson has been pretty quiet on this as far as I've seen, and so he was finally asked about it a few days ago, because Spire Motorsports and I believe Jeff himself are also named in this lawsuit as well. So Mr. Gluck here, friend of the show, Jeff Gluck, is giving Jeff Dickerson an opportunity to give his side of why he is being named in this lawsuit. So let's give Jeff the opportunity to truly explain himself as to why he thinks that this is all happening.
Well, obviously, on another topic, I have to ask you, you've been involved in an ongoing lawsuit that you're a party to involving Joe Gibbs Racing, Chris Gabehart, and you got brought into this, obviously not by choice, but there was a recent temporary restraining order from the judge that said JGR has demonstrated a likelihood of success in the case against Gabehart, but not against Spire, yet you're still a defendant in this suit. So can you explain, I guess, from your perspective, why are you still a defendant in this suit after this restraining order? You know, I guess I don't really understand what are you guys still part of this?
I'm sorry, I was just waiting for my shot collar from the lawyers to see if that was okay.
Oh, did it work?
It has not gone off.
Okay.
So, okay, and I like how you phrased the question too, because I don't want to talk for Chris, you know, who's a separate party to this, and I don't want to talk for JGR. But maybe the best way I can answer that is, I don't think any of us want to be here, right? I don't think any of us want to be in court. Nobody wants to be in court. I will say that it is tough sitting in court and being called a liar and a thief and a cheater. And every time that a judge has asked for any evidence, they have produced nothing. Nothing. And that's not Jeff's opinion. I mean, there's people, you know what I mean, or my opinion, there's media people and observers there that have witnessed the same thing. So, you know, I mean, like, so that part is tough, because this whole sport has watched us grow up, and we've done everything the right way. Everything. We have taken no shortcuts. So when we hear in court that we're trying to take a shortcut, you know, it's man, it's tough. It's tough to hear sometimes. You know, even Monday, they filed something after the win, and essentially it was linking it back to Chris. And I'll tell you what upsets me is that not only is Chris not in that role, but they're minimizing what happens here. They're minimizing the 175 people here. Like, we couldn't win, right, without them, right? And I don't even just mean like without Chris. They're implying we can't win without JGR data, which, as you know, and the whole sport knows, we have an alliance partner that's won 320 races. We don't need their stuff. We don't want their stuff. I didn't ask for their stuff. You know, but about the process, the other thing that sucks, Jeff, is that we've just kind of been on the sidelines through this, right? We haven't really had to, short of a few declarations that I was able to make, right? We haven't really been able to talk in court or do much in court, you know, but that's about to change. If we're in the trial phase, that's about to change. And I can tell you that Spire has not even begun to fight, right? And as you know, it's just like, you know, again, I don't want to be in court, but I can tell you that going all the way back to our agency roots and representing several people in that garage through these things, and it's like Spire is comfortable in court, and Spire is comfortable winning in court. And what this phase is our specialty, right? And so, you know, they've called us a lot of things, right? And we know it, we hear it, right? And so if the point is to try to hurt us, right, or try to burn us down, okay, well, you know, again, I don't think they're going to beat us, you know, but it's just like, you know, they might win something, but, you know, I'll make sure that they're, you know, they wish they hadn't. Because it's just, and maybe that's the point, Jeff, when you're saying, why are you still a party in this, or what's going on, or how did you guys get, there's two or three facts here. Chris has admitted that he took something. That's true. I mean, that's not Jeff's opinion, that's court. And it's true that I hired him. Because, I mean, let's be, the process is the punishment. That is the deal. The process is the punishment, at least as it is the Spire, right? And so, you know, that's just how it is, I guess, right? I mean, that's just show business, I suppose. But, you know, but it's hard. I mean, it just, you know, you hear these things and it's just like, you know, they know better. They know who our alliance partner is. They just don't have the balls to say it in court. You know what I mean? And so that's what I mean. It's just like they want to diminish all these things. They want to diminish all of our people. They want to hurt us in front of the industry. They want to hurt us in front of sponsors and fans, right? Just because they can. I mean, that's just the thing. But You know who our alliance partner is, right? They haven't said, I'm just saying, it's just like, I'm not trying to turn this into a train wreck. I'm just saying, but it's like, they know who our partner is. They just won't say it. Because if I have it, who else has it? Right? So they want to bring in these other little teams. You know what I'm saying? It's just like they want to bring in all these other little teams because, I would just say this. The one personal opinion of mine, as long as the talent flows towards that side of the garage and as long as the sponsors go to that side of the garage, everybody's fine. But the minute it comes back here, it's just how it is, right? I mean, that's just, I guess that's racing. But I don't know. I mean, it's, the process is the punishment, man. I guess that's the only way to say it.
Okay, so there's so many thoughts that I have after that 6 minutes and 23 seconds clip. Number one, before I say anything about what Jeff had to say, I wish that here's the problem. They're both Jeff. So I'll say the one thing I wish is that Jeff Gluck jumped in and asked some questions in the middle of his explanation, because it seemed like even Jeff Gluck was kind of lost at what Jeff Dickerson was trying to say, in the sense that there was times where Jeff said something like, the fact that, they're trying to pull in all these different teams, or even like, what was the part where he said, he had said something, and basically, like, you could see Jeff Gluck's face be like confused as to what he was trying to say. And it seemed like Jeff Dickerson was also stumbling over himself a lot, and he kind of didn't really know what he wanted to say. He kind of was, it's either he didn't know what to say, or he was trying to like talk through a filter. Because again, there's that thought of like, what can I say and what can't I say? Because we are still in the middle of litigation. So it was almost kind of came out as like word salad. And then on top of that, it could also have been the fact that he had so many things in his mind that he was trying to say them all at once. And so then he was kind of almost talking over himself in the sense that he was interrupting his own point, and he kept like stopping, be like, actually, let me just say this. And like, so it seemed like there were times where he kind of got himself lost as far as his 6-some minute explanation as to why he's a part of it. Now, here's the one thing I will say. As far as what he actually said, and as far as what he actually admitted to, he admitted, obviously, that he hired Chris Gabehart, and he's maybe not putting it, but he's admitting publicly that obviously Chris Gabehart took something. Now, that can be construed in like 5 different ways, because my immediate thought is, when you try to sit and say somebody who worked for you took something with them to a competitor that unfairly hurt you and helped your competitor in a way that you feel so either hurt or, either feelings-wise hurt, or you feel like it hurt the company so badly that it's worth trying to sue somebody over and having, spend all this money and time in court and all this other stuff. My biggest thing with this whole issue of why this is happening, and the thing that doesn't make any sense to me, is the fact that you can construe what Chris Gabehart took as just general knowledge as one thing. And even if he admits, yes, there was a Google Drive where, I had information, whether it was setups, whether it was, past data, whatever it was that was on this Google Drive that Chris Gabehart had on his computer that he then shared with Spire Motorsports to, help them in some way, shape, or form. And obviously Jeff Dickerson claims that he didn't want their data, which I'm going to just go ahead and say that's a lie. Like, if you were given the opportunity, hey, the competitor, somebody that you hired has competitors' data and setups. Do you want it? You're going to go, yes, I do. I want to know what they're doing differently to us and where they're beating us so that we can then beat them or at least be on the same level and give us a chance of beating them. And this is the thing that's just like so confusing to me, is that this is sports. And not to mention that this is sports, but more so even specifically, this is NASCAR. Cheating is a storied part of NASCAR's 75 plus year history of its existence. Cheating, bending the rules, manipulating the car in a way to try to benefit yourself, underhanded, cheap tactics. This is like embedded in the sport's history. And it's almost gotten to the point now where it's like, are we sure that these team owners and such, are we sure they don't like being in court? Because it's almost like this is where they feel most comfortable, because they're almost, I'm waiting for Haas Factory Team to sue somebody. You know what I mean? I'm waiting for Legacy Motor Club to be involved in a lawsuit. I'm waiting for, Garage 66 to be involved in a lawsuit. I'm waiting for all these other teams to sue somebody else, because it's like common theme now that there's all these different lawsuits happening and everybody's suing somebody else. I mean, it goes as far down as like ARCA teams are suing drivers, and like at some point you have to go like, what the fuck are we doing here? How far have we fallen in a sense of, this feels like something that has nothing to do with what would help NASCAR in any way, shape, or form. And instead we're just throwing stones from glass houses. And it benefits nobody and it hurts everybody, because it almost looks petty. To anybody looking on the outside, this looks beyond petty. It doesn't matter who you are and what situation. If you're suing somebody over somebody taking information that you claim is confidential or, trade secrets within your team, whatever you claim it is, and you're suing somebody over that, like, I don't know, maybe don't push him out the fucking door. I mean, NASCAR wants to be a stick and ball sport. Honestly, the best comparison that I can make to this is quite literally the same situation if you're an NFL team and you have an offensive or defensive coordinator under like an Andy Reid or a Kyle Shanahan, or, the defensive coordinator for the Seahawks, or the offensive coordinator for the Packers, or the defensive coordinator, some coordinator, some quarterback's coach for the Giants, or whomever, who learns under some head coach, learns plays, learns schemes, learns formations that work well, whatever, and then gets hired to be a head coach at some other team. And then they obviously are going to take whatever information that they learned and whatever plays that they learned and whatever schemes that they learned from the previous team, and they're going to take them with them to the next team that they're being the head coach for. How many times has, for any NFL fan, how many other times has there been an offensive or defensive coordinator for the 49ers under Kyle Shanahan who has basically just copied and pasted his fucking playbook and went out and been the head coach for Mike McDaniels with the Dolphins, or Sean McVay with the Rams, or, how many other people, fucking what's-his-face, who was the head coach for the Jets, have taken plays or schemes or information or strategies or whatever from their previous head coach they worked under, and then went to another team and just used all their plays and their formations and everything, all their knowledge that they garnered, that they learned, took all of Kyle Shanahan's hard work and learning and time and effort and all that other stuff, took all of his stuff, went to another team, and then just used it for the other team and helped the other team. And yes, can that coach be butthurt over the fact that, yeah, the guy just basically stole all my work and now he's being successful? Look at Sean McVay. He's won Super Bowls and gone to the playoffs how many years and has one of the best teams in the NFL right now. And yeah, a lot of that is off of the fact that he was following me around for the last how many years before he got hired to be the Rams head coach. And yeah, you can be butthurt about that, but at the end of the day, that is sports. Somebody learns under you, gains knowledge or something like that, and then takes what they've learned and whatever information they've garnered, and then goes to a competitor and helps the competitor be successful with the information that they learned from you. That's just sports. And the idea that, like, Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers would sue Sean McVay for stealing plays from their playbook and stealing schemes that the 49ers use, that's just stupid. And the 49ers would be laughed at mercilessly. They'd be made fun of and memed constantly. Because it's ridiculous. And it's stupid. So then you put it in this context of NASCAR, and you have a guy who garnered all this information, learned all this stuff, learned setups and strategies and whatever else that he took with them from JGR, a top-end team, and went to a step-down team, Inspire, and, hey, I brought all this information with me. Well, great, we'll take it. Because I guarantee you, that's part of the reason why he got hired. That's part of the reason why anyone would hire anybody from anywhere. Is that you worked very hard, along with the team that you worked for, and the company that you worked for, and you garnered all this information, you garnered all this knowledge, and you're going to help us by bringing us that knowledge so that we can therefore be more competitive with them. That's sports. No matter how you draw it up. I don't care if he literally took actual just written down setups from JGR and just plugged it into their Spire car for Carson Hocevar, and that helped him win at Talladega. I don't give a fuck. The truth of the matter is that it's sports. That is allowed. There's nowhere in the NASCAR handbook or the NASCAR rule book that says you can't steal setups from one team that you previously worked for and give it to another team that you now work for. There's no rule against that. So to stand on this, like, what are you suing for? What are you hoping to gain out of this? To me, the only way you can construe this is just somebody who wants the last laugh. They want to be able to say, yeah, we got him, while he's on the way out. Because at the end of the day, Gabe Hart was a very vital part of the success for specifically Denny Hamlin, who we'll get to in a second. But he did help them get a lot of wins. He's a very smart person. He was there for a long time. And to me, the only way you can construe this is somebody was butthurt on the JGR side. And then they overheard that the guy who's supposed to be part of our family, who isn't a part of our family anymore, goes to a competitor and is helping a competitor. Oh no, we can't have that. We should sue him for it. On what grounds? On what fucking grounds? The fact that you claim that they're, quote, trade secrets? And then you're roping in the team that he works for now. For what reason? For what? Because again, you just want to throw stones and you want to have the last laugh. You want to be able to say, yep, we got him. They had to pay us he had to pay us X amount of money for going and giving him that information. You didn't want to walk away with nothing. You didn't want to walk away with somebody just beating you and just besting you. You didn't want to accept that. And to me, again, this is where I almost sit here and I go, how are people, and look, Jeff Dickerson, his explanation was not the greatest. Okay. It was not. Like I said, he stumbled over himself a lot. He almost like talked over himself a lot. But then you compare it to the response to this exact same video, which was Denny Hamlin saying this, quote, he says, yeah, okay, buddy. You hired someone who stole tens of millions worth of information, lied about communications y'all had after you deleted them, and now is getting paid double to work on your truck program. Get the fuck out. What was it you called Richard again? Was it you who was leaking information after RTA calls? Now, the last two, I have no idea what the fuck that's even talking about. I assume he probably said something about Richard Childress. Who fucking cares? And then also at the same time, this is like, again, this is just throwing stones just to throw stones. You're throwing a fit is all this is. And what a shocker. It's Denny Hamlin throwing a fit. I could never imagine him throwing a fit. And this is where it's almost like, how the fucking sane people sit there and go, yeah, the Jeff Dickerson guy is a douchebag and an asshole, but that Denny Hamlin guy, he's cool. He's real cool. You know, Denny actually had a comment about his little freak out on Twitter. So let's go ahead and hear what Denny Hamlin had to say in his, about him responding to that video there.
Well, it was a knee-jerk reaction first, and it doesn't mean I don't feel that way, but it was a little bit knee-jerk, and certainly felt like I know enough of the facts to at least assert something, and I know that JGR has not ever gone after anyone. I can tell you that they don't care who else is running good or whatever. They just
see, now that's already a lie. He's already lying. That line right there of him saying, I can tell you right now, JGR doesn't care how good somebody's running. That's a fucking lie, because on the basis level of sport, yes, you should care how your competitors run. You should care if Hendrick Motorsports is faster than you right now. You should care if Penske's kicking your ass. You should care if Spire is beating you now, or if Legacy Motor Club surpassed you in the Toyota department. You should care if that's the case. Because at the end of the day, you are a part of sport, and you are competing against all these other teams. So yes, you should care. That line alone is just the biggest lie on the planet. Also, the other line of JGR never goes after anybody. Really? Are you sure? I bet there's a bunch of people who used to work for them who would probably beg to differ. Not to mention the fact that even that fact of they never go after anybody. Dude, they're literally going after Chris Gabehart in a lawsuit. That's literally going after him. You care so much and you are affected so much that you're suing him. So yes, you care. Don't lie. Don't dance around it. You care. They care. JGR cares on top of this whole idea that we aren't petty. We don't go after anybody. That's exactly what you're doing right now. This idea that you are suing somebody over setups is petty, is pathetic in a lot of ways, and it literally is the exact same thing, as I said earlier, of suing somebody for taking football plays to another team. That's it. It literally correlates in that exact way. Setups help you be more successful within a race. Football plays help you be more successful within a game. You're suing somebody over plays that they learned from you, working under you, and gave to somebody else that they now work for. This is petty beyond belief. Continue, Denny.
They invest so much into this sport and technology, and Toyota as well, that you have to protect that. Otherwise, it's an arms race. You know, if we didn't protect very important key employees with non-competes and things like that, it would be an arms race. I would just go to someone at Hendrick, maybe Chad Canal, say, I'll give you $10 million a year. Bring everything with you. Like, that's just not the way that it can operate, right? So I just think that, this is a very important, process in our sport that certainly if you quietly talk to the other teams, intellectual property is something that has to be protected in this sport because it's just way too valuable. And, again, I know what JGR spends per year to make their cars go around, and it is an astronomical amount, and they deserve to keep that information to themselves.
So, again, here's the thing. And maybe I should have let that play. I accidentally X'd out of it. But, I mean, that's pretty much it. The idea that because you put in all this money and all this time and all this effort, yes, at the end of the day, you have more money than these other smaller teams do. Not to mention the fact that the way that the sport is set up, it is literally designed because of the relationships that certain teams have with their respective OEMs. It is literally designed and set up for only 3 teams to succeed. Right now, the way that the sport is set up, it is only designed for Joe Gibbs Racing, Penske Motorsports, or whatever, and Hendrick Motorsports to succeed. It is only designed for those 3 respective teams to find success, make the playoffs or make the chase, win races, and win championships. It is not set up for Trackhouse, Legacy Motor Club, Spire, RCR, RFK, any of the other smaller teams that are below those 3 respective teams. It is not designed for them to win championships. It is not designed for them to find consistent success and victories. It is not designed for them to make the chase and be successful in the chase. It's designed for those 3 specific teams to be the most successful and to take all the victories and to take all the championships. The list of champions is Penske, Hendrick, and Joe Gibbs across the board for a reason. Until 2017 was the last time there was a different champion. Look at it. Look at the history of the fucking sport. Let's just take a look at all NASCAR champions. I'm literally going to pull up the entire list of every single NASCAR champion. Okay? Tell me if this sounds familiar. 2025, Hendrick Motorsports with Kyle Larson. 2024, Team Penske with Joey Logano. 2023, Team Penske again. 2022, Team Penske again. 2021, Hendrick Motorsports. 2020, Hendrick Motorsports. 2019, Joe Gibbs Racing. 2018, Penske Motorsports. 2017, Furniture Row, which, by the way, does not even exist anymore and is out of the sport. 2016, Hendrick Motorsports. 2015, Joe Gibbs Racing. 2014, Stewart-Haas Racing, the one exception, who, by the way, is also in the current iteration that it is, does not exist anymore. It's now, it's only Haas factory team. 2013, Hendrick Motorsports. 2012, Penske. 2011, Stewart-Haas again. 2010, Hendrick Motorsports. 2009, Hendrick Motorsports. 2008, Hendrick Motorsports. Hendrick Motorsports again in 7, in 06, and 05, Joe Gibbs Racing. You have to go back to 2004 before you find a different champion besides those three and Stewart-Haas on a consistent basis, which is Roush Racing, with 03 being Kenseth and 04 being Kurt Busch. That's over 20 years ago. And even before that, 2002 was who? Joe Gibbs Racing. 2001 was who? Hendrick Motorsports. 2000 was who? Joe Gibbs Racing. This sport is dominated by 3 teams. In the entire century of 2000, there is only an instance of 3 different teams other than the main 3 winning a championship. Roush twice, which was, like I said, 03 and 04. Stewart-Haas Racing in 2011 and 2014. And then 2017 was the last time that one of the not big 3 teams won a championship in Furniture Row, which, by the way, I should also mention, Stewart-Haas Racing was basically driving Hendrick Motorsports equipment, so basically counted a Hendrick Motorsports victory. And Furniture Row was driving Joe Gibbs Racing equipment in 2017. So it's basically another Joe Gibbs Racing victory. So if you even take those out and you count those as what they actually basically are, which is a Joe Gibbs Racing championship under a different banner and a Hendrick Motorsports championship under a different banner, you have to go back to 2004, which, as I said, was over 20 fucking years ago. Hamlin in 2311 were suing NASCAR talking about monopolies. Motherfucker, these 3 teams have a monopoly over the entire sport. And this is beyond the playoff format. This is beyond the chase format. This is across all formats. It is dominated by 3 teams. Gibbs, Hendrick, and Penske by a country fucking mile. So yes, any team that is below them on the totem pole when it comes to OEM manufacturers, they are going to take anything they can fucking get. They're going to do anything and everything it takes to shorten the gap to them. So yeah, you're goddamn right. If Chad Knaus is out there and some if Jimmy Johnson of Legacy Motor Club called his old crew chief and said, Chad, I'll hire you for $10 million fucking dollars. Come bring us everything you can and help us out. Yeah, they're gonna fucking do that. And yeah, Chad's gonna jump ship and go to probably Legacy Motor Club and just give him all he knows. And I can't sit here and bash them at all, because how can I blame them? They're so behind on everyone. They are so behind. It is patently obvious. It's almost every week that, as I said, it's a Hendrick Motorsports, Joe Gibbs Racing, or Penske, Team Penske car that's winning the race or leading the most laps or tops in the point standings. Only now this year did 2311 show up and has won the most races and leading the point standings right now. So, I mean, at the end of the day, and oh, by the way, that 2311 thing, that's just basically Joe Gibbs equipment too. So, if any team that's lower on the totem pole, that also, by the way, to Spire's situation, they, in the grand scheme of things, no matter how hard they try, and even though I don't know why Jeff Dickerson didn't just say, yes, we're aligned with Hendrick Motorsports. Just fucking say it. They're aligned with Hendrick Motorsports. They're getting Hendrick Motorsports stuff. Even if that's the case, and this also goes for 2311, and this is why it's impressive that 2311 is doing as well as they have. They are also still getting not the same stuff that Joe Gibbs Racing has. Or they're not still getting the same stuff that Hendrick Motorsports has. Or Team Penske has. They're still not getting the exact same stuff because at the end of the day, yes, you're going to pay me to help you out in any sort of department as far as R&D and, bodies and engines and setups or whatever, but I'm not going to give you my best. I'm going to give you my second best. I'll give you my lower end stuff. I'll give you the stuff that just isn't good enough, but it's good enough for you to maybe beat some of the other lower teams. But at the end of the day, it's always designed for you to stay below me and to never beat me. Hendrick Motorsports is not giving Spire equipment so that they can turn around and beat Hendrick Motorsports. It's always designed that you're going to be below me. Same thing with Joe Gibbs to Legacy Motor Club. Joe Gibbs or 2311, they're going to give them only so much. But at the end of the day, we're not giving you our actual best. Because why would we do that? We're only hurting ourselves. So these other smaller teams, they need to find ways to close the gap. And this is, again, within the theme and the spirit of the sport itself, in the sense that the entire 75-plus year history of the sport, it has been riddled with people who have cheated, whether with setups on their car or things that they've done to their car. There's the famous story that Darrell Waltrip told on Dale Jr.'s podcast about how he had the lead shot in the side of the car where the jack stand would be to jack up the car. And there was this little thing that he would pull up and it would throw the lead shot out so that the car would make weight. But then once he actually hit the track, he could let all those beads out, those lead beads out, so then it would lighten the car. And then there's obviously the famous story of them going to Bristol and it getting wet and then all of the lead shot coming out at the same time. And, but regardless, like, it's within the spirit of the sport. And look, we spent all this money. Yeah, you spent all this money on setups and R&D and all these things that you learned. Yeah, congratulations. You spent all this fucking money on it. But at the end of the day, how much more shit were you given by your respective manufacturers that the other teams never had a chance to get? How much information, how much better stuff, better equipment, better everything were you provided because you're the number one on the list of the OEM, so therefore you're given the premier and they're given the secondary? Doesn't matter. I spent all this money. Yeah, but also, by the way, you're given the most amount of fucking money. So you can sit there and throw a fit and say, this is why I'm so upset But at the end of the day, it is just you being upset over the fact that somebody else is trying to close the gap, and you don't like that. Also, there's this statement that came out after Jeff Dickerson's little quote there. Also, by the way, Denny Hamlin, something that I didn't play here, but I'll read from the article. Denny Hamlin said, this is where, because I accidentally cut the video off. So he also said, where is it? He said, quote, because he was asked, why did Hamlin feel so compelled to respond to Dickerson like that? He said, quote, I just felt like he went after the family, and JGR's family is my family. So that's where the knee-jerk reaction came from. I will say it again. I just felt like he went after the family, and JGR's family is my family. I just felt like he went after the family. I played that whole 6+ minute clip. Where did he go after them? Where did he attack them that would warrant you to react in that way? Fucking where? Point out to me what he said that was so egregious and so hurtful and so scathing towards the Gibbs family that made you react in that way. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear his reasoning. Oh, by the way, does anybody question him where that actually was? No. Did anybody ask him actually what specifically did he say that made Denny believe that he went after the family? No, no one asks him. No one ever asks him any of this shit. No one ever challenges him on anything. It is the same fucking story every single week. It is not just his fucking kiss-ass people that he has on his podcast that are his co-hosts. It's not just those people. It's not just the people that work for him. It's the fucking people in the media. It's the Bob Pockrases of the world. It's the Jeff Glucks of the world. It's the Jordan Bianchis of the world. It's all these other fucking people that are at the track every week talking to these people. You think you'd be comfortable enough to actually ask them that question of, hey, what exactly did Jeff Dickerson say that made you believe that he was going after the family specifically? And that therefore warranted you to react that way? No, no one asks him. No one even gives it a thought to ask him. But oh, by the way, these are, the number one NASCAR reporters. These are the great minds that we have to rely on when it comes to reporting news and, getting the inside scoop on things. Just like I said earlier about Jeff Gluck asking Jeff Dickerson what he thought specifically about his issues within the deal and what he really takes issue with specifically, or ask him simply to expand on whatever he says. But no, you just sit there and just nod. Oh, yes. Or give confusing faces. Oh, I don't know. Oh. But never say anything. Never fucking challenge anybody. Never actually have a set of balls yourself to actually ask somebody a follow-up question. A follow-up question is the most basic fucking thing when it comes to interviewing somebody or asking somebody an interview question. Trying to get the inside scoop. You don't just ask a question and then just let them say their piece. You ask maybe a follow-up question if they don't really answer your question. But all these fucking people don't even know. I've never even went to school for this. I've never been a reporter in my life. I've never thought about being a reporter in my life. And yet these people who do it professionally and supposedly get paid to do it, somehow, some way get paid to do it, they don't even think about asking a follow-up question at all. It's the most basic ass shit of reporting. And yet, hey, Denny, what exactly did Jeff Dickerson say? Jeff Gluck's standing right there recording him. Maybe, I don't know, Jeff Gluck. Ask him, what exactly did he say on my podcast that made you believe Like, what quote or whatever did he say that made you believe that he was going after the Gibbs family in any way, shape, or form that would warrant you to react in that way? No, that would be too controversial of a question. That would be too much of a hot question for Denny to handle, and I don't want to upset any driver. I don't want to piss anybody off. Just always stay status quo and ask, just literally ask questions that a chat AI bot could ask. That's the same kind of shit that you ask is the same shit that just ChatGPT could fucking ask or come up with. So it frustrates me because that is a prime opportunity to, ask a follow-up question, figure out exactly what was going on in his head, and yet nobody even attempts, nobody even thinks about it. It just gets washed under, swept under the rug or washed away with the river or whatever, and it's just left out there to always wonder. Who knows? He's never asked a question, so you can never know. Ugh. All right, I've spent way too much time on this. I spent an hour on it. Holy shit. I wanted to touch on this before we get into what happened this past weekend at Texas. There's it is, to me, let's talk about Greg Biffle for a second. There's to what I've seen, preliminary information coming out about the Greg Biffle stuff. Again, anybody who has been living under a rock, Greg Biffle, some odd months ago, before the season started, unfortunately, passed away along with his family in a plane crash. The video's all over social media. It's very easy to find. Supposedly there were some issues with the plane that they were on. They were trying to circle back to the airstrip that they initially had, taken off from. And they were kind of all over the place in the sky. If you go look at the trace of, what path they had taken, they were all over the place. And then unfortunately, they crash landed and perished in the fire that followed. So there's some weird. If you would have asked me that, hey, Greg Biffle is going to pass away in a fiery plane crash this year, along with his entire family, would you ever imagine that happening? I would have absolutely said no. I would have never thought that would have occurred. I mean, out of all the people in NASCAR to pass away this year, Greg Biffle was not on my list. And even more so, what was not on my list was the fact that there was going to be wild conspiracy theory and controversy around his and his family's death. So, for anybody who doesn't know about this and is behind on this, there is this big controversy happening right now around Greg Biffle because there is supposedly some bank fraud and there was a break-in at the Biffle family home. I'm just going to go ahead and read this article really quick. By Heavy.com posted this today, just a few hours ago from when I'm recording, so Monday here this evening. On the title being NASCAR legend Greg Biffle bank fraud case takes dark turn as Secret Service joins investigation. So yeah, the Secret Service is now involved in this. In this article here, it says the investigation into the NASCAR legend Greg Biffle's bank fraud case has expanded, bringing in federal support and raising new questions. Late NASCAR driver Greg Biffle, his wife Christina, and their children died in a plane crash in Statesville in December of 2025. Within hours, investigators say someone accessed the family's financial accounts. Authorities report that emails, phone numbers, and passwords were changed to carry out unauthorized transactions. The suspected fraud includes Venmo transfers and fraudulent checks, with losses reaching hundreds of thousands of dollars. New court records show the U.S. Secret Service is now assisting the case, which has also been linked to a later home burglary. So think about this for a second. Greg Biffle dies, and then some couple, or these men and women are these two men and women are the ones that everybody is suspecting. Basically, right after they die, go in and steal a bunch of money from them, and then later on go and break into their house and steal a bunch of shit in their house. Like, what? Are you kidding me? I have no words for this. This is something that I just never thought, never in my mind would I have ever imagined that this is what Greg Biffle's end would be like. And now listen, the big conspiracy theory that is going around now, and I'm only saying conspiracy theory because there is no hard evidence yet as to this is what happened. But listen, I am not ruling it out. Supposedly, people are believing now that there's a chance that these same people that went in and stole money from Greg Biffle and broke into their house, tampered with the plane that the Biffle family flew on in a way that was going to basically make it crash. And whether it is some sort of issue between the families or some sort of issue personally between Greg and these people, who knows? But that is the growing conspiracy theory amongst a lot of people, is a lot of people are starting to believe that Greg Biffle's death was not an accident, that these people were trying to steal money from him for whatever reason. And to me, what doesn't make any sense to me is that this is the same guy who, I mean, on the surface, spent almost all of his time, full time away from NASCAR. He still ran part-time races every now and then, but once he, stepped away full time, he spent most of his time like helping people. He would, it's the reason why they wanted, NASCAR wants to honor him and did honor him so much, is because of the simple fact of how much help he provided to so many different people in natural disasters or hurricane relief or, whatever. There's a reason why NASCAR is holding him in such high esteem. It's not just as a driver, but as a person, is because of all the stuff he did off the track after he was done full time. So again, if you were to ask me, like, hey, out of all of the probably countless shitty people who have been NASCAR drivers in the past, who do you think is going to be the one that's going to be involved in some sort of bank fraud case after they've died, where somebody's broken into their house and stolen a bunch of money from them? And maybe possibly, chance that they tampered with his plane and caused it to crash. Greg Biffle was not on that list. He wasn't even near that list. It is... what the fuck do you say? It's just wild. I will read a little bit more of this. The Greg Biffle bank fraud investigation linked to home burglary investigation. The Greg Biffle bank fraud investigation widened in January of 2026 after a burglary at the family's Mooresville home. Investigators report that more than $30,000 in cash and 2 firearms were stolen during the break-in. Security footage shows a masked individual moving through the house with clear awareness of the layout. Detectives say the person appeared to know the camera locations, raising concerns about insider knowledge. There's another reason why this conspiracy theory is growing. This detail has become a key focus in the home burglary investigation tied to the broader Greg Biffle fraud case. Authorities have not confirmed a direct connection between the burglary and the bank fraud investigation. However, detectives are examining whether the same individuals may be responsible for both crimes. Court records indicate that people with close access to the family are part of the ongoing review. I'm going to wait, obviously, before I really expand on this. I mean, it's preliminary stuff. We don't know yet, obviously, who did this, what's true, what's not. Like I said, there's the idea of the possibility of him or somebody causing him to crash, somebody causing the plane that they were in to crash. To be quite honest, when it happened, I took it more as a Kobe Bryant event. For anybody who remembers the X amount of years ago that Kobe Bryant and his daughter, Gianna, I believe was her name, they passed away in a helicopter crash. And that was just all operator error of somebody flying a helicopter, happened to fly into some fog, thought that they were higher off the ground than they were, and accidentally just crashed into the side of a mountain. The Greg Biffle thing, I mean, we all initially just chalked it up to, look, plane crashes are not a very common thing. There's a reason why it is such a big deal when there is a plane that crashes. It's newsworthy stuff, is because it's not like every day there's a car crash somewhere in the United States or somewhere in the world. That's commonplace, so that's not exactly news. It might be local news to you, but it's not worldwide news. But it's nationwide news, or if it's bad enough, it's worldwide news when a plane crashes. And you better believe that this Greg Biffle thing was worldwide news when it happened, because of not only how famous he was for being a NASCAR driver, but again, like I said, all the stuff he did off the track when he was pretty much retired. So I'm going to, as everybody should, I'm not going to say, yes, this conspiracy theory is right, as far as, yes, somebody messed with the plane and made it crash. Is there a chance that it's all coincidence, as far as somebody saw an opportune moment who wasn't in the greatest relationship with Greg Biffle, and so they, right after he passes, they didn't even wait. They saw an opportune moment and capitalized and stole money and broke into his house and tried to profit off of it. Sure, there's the chance that is a possibility, that they saw an opportune moment and they didn't directly cause the plane to crash. But supposedly, from what I heard, these people may have had a possible connection to working on Greg's planes themselves. And so I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to throw anything out and say, no, there's no chance. I just want to know why. I mean, at the end of the day, my personal beliefs really are, I don't really care if they really messed with this plane and made it crash, or if they didn't and they were just pieces of shit and saw an opportune moment to capitalize on Greg's death. I don't really care what the actual circumstances are. I just want to know why. That's all I want to know. I just want to know why these people are choosing, out of all the people to steal from and to try to profit off of that are dead, out of all the people, why him? I don't understand. I really don't. But we'll obviously wait. Hopefully in the next couple weeks or so, we'll get some more updates on the Greg Biffle stuff. But we'll obviously wait for that to occur. So on to the weekend happenings from this past weekend at Texas. An eventful weekend, I must say. Had all three series compete at Texas. Not going to talk about ARCA, sorry. But we had the trucks, O'Reilly's, and the Cup Series at Texas this past week. And look, a lot of people bash on Texas. Was the racing that great? Like, if you were to make the comparison of like this mile and a half to other mile and a halves, here's what I see it as. As somebody who is on iRacing a lot, I find great enjoyment personally racing at Texas under the current configuration. Now, again, this is iRacing. Everybody says that iRacing is very accurate. Is it really that accurate? Who knows? I'm going to take everybody's word for it and say, yes, it, is pretty accurate. I've very much enjoyed racing at Texas on a personal level. I actually honestly enjoy both configurations. I enjoy the original configuration from X amount of years ago and the current one that we're stuck with now. It is not like Darlington in the sense like the racing is as good, but it's similar in the sense that you have two completely different corners to a sense on both ends. Obviously, turn one is extremely flat, where you got to be out of the gas. And turns 3 and 4, you're basically on it the whole time. So racing it, I enjoy. Now, if you're going to ask me how do you like watching the product, I think it's something that it's something that only a hardcore racing fan could actually enjoy. And what's funny about me even saying that is hardcore racing fans don't even enjoy watching. It has been a known thing for a while that this track is, in so many words, a mess. It's not enjoyable for fans to watch at home. I don't know how the product obviously is in person. I don't know that. I can only obviously go based off of what people say online, and the large theme is that people don't enjoy Texas. It's not a fun race to watch. It's boring. It's hard to pass. It was maybe a nice idea in theory as far as having the two completely different corners in the hopes that it could create decent racing. But as we've had this for quite a while now, they have tried so many different things. They've tried PJ1 at certain parts in each corner. They've tried different packages from the 550 and the Gen 6s to now the current package we have with the Gen 7s. It seems like no matter what we do, the racing isn't very good. It is another one of the tracks where the most fun thing or the most interesting thing that you see on a broadcast is the pit stops. It was shown in the Cup race more specifically where, yes, were there some passing? Yes, some, but very little. Not a lot of guys, not a lot of comers and goers. Wherever you kind of were is where you were. I mean, prime example is Corey Heim, who stayed out on how late older tires, just drove away. had like a 2-3 second lead on second place. And he had how much older tires on how much less fuel, and he just gapped everybody. And then you get back into the field and you're, anywhere from fifth on back, and it's a struggle to try to find speed and or make up time. And once again, you're forced to just try to hopefully have your pit crew make up for you and get you some spots. And to me, it's sad. And it even really more, you can boil it down to just this. Everybody praises pretty much every single mile and a half that's on the schedule within the Gen 7 car. The previous generation car, the Gen 6 car, everybody was like, the mile and a halves are terrible. Across the board, everybody was saying that in the Gen 6 car, pretty much every single mile and a half was bad. Nobody enjoyed any single mile and a half racing. Maybe some people enjoyed Kansas, but across the board, people did not enjoy watching mile and a half racing. There's a reason why we went to the Charlotte Roval, and we went away from 2 oval races at Charlotte, is because the oval racing product was so bad in the Gen 6 car that they changed to a road course in the hopes that it would be more entertaining, and it was. They've obviously since changed back because, again, where the Gen 6 car floundered, the Gen 7 car is amazing at the mile and a half product. And yet, every other mile and a half that we run, Vegas, Kansas, Charlotte, they are all amazing products, but Texas still stays as a boring, bland product for everybody. I think, as far as what NASCAR should put money into next, as far as a track that they need to change and they need to improve, Texas I think, should be number one on that list. I mean, you look across the board. I mean, they've put some money into repaving, tracks like North Wilkesboro, and, they're probably going to put some more money into Rockingham here, as they probably put Rockingham, and they should put Rockingham back on the Cup schedule. But to me, it's embarrassing, because that is a track that, to me, has, I would believe, a large amount of NASCAR fans, like a good fan base. And yet they've built such a garbage product to watch at that track. Like I said, it's fun to race on iRacing. I enjoy racing on iRacing, and that's with all 3 cars, the trucks, the O'Reillys, and the Cup. I enjoy racing them all on iRacing, but it's not a fun product to watch. And so I think that what is the answer? That goes to that question. The next question is, what is the answer? To me, it is not just copying what Atlanta did at Texas. That's not the fucking answer. To me, number one, if you do that, it takes away the specialty of Atlanta. It makes Atlanta not as special of a destination on the schedule. And not to mention the fact that that is not the answer to tracks that you failed at, is just to make it a drafting track. I would just personally go back to what you had. I would literally just copy what the original Texas layout was. I understand that it's the reason why you changed the Atlanta layout as well, or changed Atlanta itself, is because, yes, diehard fans loved Atlanta, but casuals found it boring, and so therefore viewership and attendance was really low, and that's why they had ended up changing it. But keeping more traditional 1.5 miles around, I think is something that we should do. We start opening up this can of like, yeah, okay, Texas isn't doing great. We're just going to turn it into another drafting track, add, a ton of banking on both ends, knock down the horsepower, change the package to where it's, pack racing again, in the hopes that we can just replicate what we got at Atlanta. It hurts Atlanta in retrospect. And also, if that say it even works, well, it opens up this can of worms that I don't think we want to open, which is now they're going to go, well, we should just do this for more 1.5 miles. We should do this for more of these other 1.5 miles. If Vegas starts to flounder, that's going to be their solution. If Kansas starts to flounder, that's going to be their solution. I'd say this. There's some more tracks that they need to go back to. Like Kentucky is one that I feel like it's another market that you're just leaving out there for no reason. You're just leaving it out there for no reason. And maybe it's the same story of not having a lot of attendance and, for some reason not finding the product there to be very good. I enjoyed Kentucky. It's almost similar in the sense to Texas, where you have, where it's flipped, where it's more banking in 1 and 2, and then it's less banked and more flat in 3 and 4. I didn't hate the product that Kentucky afforded. I think that it could be interesting under the Gen 7 car. I don't know how it would race under the Gen 7 car. Maybe it would just race as similar or the same as Texas, but you never know. I know for sure, though, that something needs to change with Texas over these next few years. And no, the answer is not changing the package. It's not changing the package. It's not the answer. It's changing the fucking track. They knew from the first race, they knew that they made a mistake. This is why they tried the PJ1 all over the track and tried to rubber up certain spots in the track to make it more racy. And then it never worked. Nothing that they ever did worked. And they tried to put a Band-Aid on an open flesh wound. That is Texas. And they gotta, to me, in my eyes, they gotta just completely overhaul the whole thing. That's the only answer to me. Congrats to Carson. He kept his winning ways in the truck race. He led the most laps. Was one of the fastest cars all night. Kyle Busch finished second in that one. Even though there was points where he was out front, he didn't lead any laps. And hey, Caden Honeycutt, look, he is still the best of the truck regulars. And I said it a few weeks ago, he is going to win a race at some point. I know he said in his post-race interview that he was not happy with himself in the sense that he can't find a way to win. And he's obviously, even if other people aren't comparing him, he obviously is mentally comparing himself to Corey Heim. The guy who was previously in this 11 truck. Corey Heim was racking off wins regardless of whatever Cup driver was in the field. He was still dominating races, dominating Cup guys, leading laps like crazy. But I think the thing is that you can't compare him. You can't compare yourself to him. You just can't. Corey Heim quite literally had the best statistical, as far as I know, it is quite literally the best statistical year in Truck Series history. Like that's the pinnacle. Like you're comparing yourself to something that you just can't do, or you just can't accomplish. fair or not, you just can't compare yourself to that. If you do, you're gonna destroy yourself because, number one, you don't have as much experience as Corey Heim does in that competitive of a truck. That's number one. Number two, you're not on his level yet. Skill-wise, experience-wise. Some people it comes more naturally than others. And who knows? Look, everybody and their mother right now is saying that Corey Heim is, he's going to be the next guy. And just like we said about Connor Zilic, he's going to be the next guy. He's going to be the next Jeff Gordon. Or we always crown these guys who never even made it to the Cup Series yet as the next so-and-so because they showed an unbelievable potential in lower series. Number one, the O'Reilly Series, as we've discovered, there's no real correlation from the O'Reilly Series to the Cup Series. They're two completely different cars, two completely different driving styles, two completely different things. It takes two completely different things in order to be successful in the O'Reilly Series to the Cup Series. And until you learn both, going from the O'Reilly Series to the Cup Series is going to be a struggle. This is why it didn't take Carson as long to get it in the Cup Series, going from just the trucks to the Cup, is because the trucks are way more comparative to the Cup cars right now. So that being said, you have to almost go, okay, Corey Heim making that step, maybe the expectation is that he's going to get it because of his unbelievable success in the trucks, but it's not a guarantee. He led a bunch of laps this past weekend at Texas, but a lot of that obviously, like I said, was, circumstantial stuff due to pit strategy. So as far as the whole Caden Honeycutt thing, look, I truly believe he's going to win a race this year. He is still in the best truck out there on a weekly basis, if not the one of the best trucks every week. He has, as far as I remember seeing, he has gapped himself in the points to the next, well, not gap. Chandler Smith's only 14 back. I was thinking he's been beating these guys a lot better. And look also, hey, I get it. Lane Riggs and Chandler Smith, who is behind him, have already won races this year. Corey Heim's won 2 races this year and only has 4 starts. He's still 8th in points, by the way. Think about that for a second. It's the same thing with like Brent Cruz, who started half the races that everybody else has, and he's almost in the top 12. I understand the frustration from his perspective, but it's the same thing with everybody else. The more you're consistently at the front, the better chances you're going to have of it just happening. It's just racing. Sometimes it's circumstantial. It can take 20 some starts before it finally happens, before you finally get your first win. But some people, it doesn't take that long. It's circumstantial stuff. You can have just as fast a car as anybody else. And like I said, he had the fastest car of anybody who wasn't a Cup driver. He was up there the whole night. So, I don't know. I know Ben Rhodes also had some issues. He led 41 laps. He was having a fast car there at the end, and he had some issues with the truck shutting off, I believe. Sucky stuff there for him. But besides that, it was mostly just a normal truck race. You saw your decent amount of cautions. Nothing too crazy. So that leads me into the O'Reilly Series race. I don't really have anything to go over specifically with this O'Reilly Series race. I will go ahead and point out once again Parker Reslev with another top 5. Continuously proving my point from previous weeks that I think he's going to be the guy that plays spoiler when it comes to making the chase comparatively to all these other Haas Factory Team, Junior Motorsports, Joe Gibbs Racing guys. He's going to be the guy. He's going to make the chase. You can't not finish as well as he has consistently and not make the chase. It'll be pretty cool to see a brand new team making a run for the championship, and especially in this new, I say new, but really old, the old chase format, bringing that back. It'll be interesting to see how well he does in the chase format versus just the playoffs. But so shout out to Parker. But the only other thing I'll say, because look, I could deep dive on this, but the main thing I have to point out once again is it concerns me even more, this idea that NASCAR executives or NASCAR, the top end people or whatever, it concerns me more and more about the people running the sport when they see the product that they get with the O'Reilly series and they see how good the racing is comparatively to the other two that we are provided on a weekly basis. It is if there's anything that all NASCAR fans can agree on, the best product every single week on a consistent basis, and it isn't even close, is the O'Reilly series. There's the one clip that's going around right now of the 3 wide off of 4 between, I think it's Larson, Allgaier, and Brent Cruz, where they all kind of pushed on each other and they all kind of rubbed on each other and they all were able to keep it straight. And it's just good, hard racing. And that's all you can ask for. I will go ahead and say this. Is it the best car? Is it like the greatest car that NASCAR has ever had? No, not even close. There have been way better racing products and way better cars in NASCAR's history than the O'Reilly Series car. But as far as what we have today, it's not even a competition. It's not even fucking close. The O'Reilly Series car beats every series by 1,000,000 miles. And it's not even like, it beats it by 1,000,000 miles at like just short tracks or just road courses or just super speedways or just mile and a halves. Like, it beats it in every single category, like everything. Any track you go to. We're going to Watkins Glen this weekend. I guarantee you the O'Reilly Series race will be better at Watkins Glen. I guarantee you when we eventually go to, you go to Atlanta, it's better there. You go to Kansas, it's better there. Vegas is better there. Bristol, it's better there. Martinsville, it's 1,000,000 times better there. Any road course, it's better there. It doesn't matter. Like it beats it every week. Homestead, it's so much better. And this is why it's like there's this constant begging of NASCAR to say, look, all these teams, the Joe Gibbs Racing and Hendrick Motorsports basically, and I think the only thing would be Ford would be very upset about this, and they wouldn't like this because this is the first time I think in God knows how many years, this past weekend at Texas was the first time that there was not a Ford in the field in the O'Reilly series. There was just Chevy and Toyota. There's not a single Ford in the field, which has me honestly concerned, by the way. It has me concerned for a multitude of reasons. And I don't want to get into it too deep, but I have this growing concern in the back of my mind, especially with Ram and Dodge trying to come back into the fold of the sport. I have this bad feeling that Ford might be trying to back out of the sport. Like completely. As in, no series will have Ford a part of it anymore. I have this bad feeling. and that Dodge eventually will take over a lot of these Ford teams in the future. Now that's years down the line, but I mean the idea that we've gone in just a few years of all these O'Reilly Series teams, it's the best example of like all these old O'Reilly Series teams that used to be Fords are now all Chevys. And Ford has basically removed itself from the O'Reilly Series completely. That has me worried. And the only thing I can think of, like I said, is why would they not want any part of the obvious best racing product that NASCAR has to offer? Is because they don't care. And the only reason they wouldn't care is that they might be trying to just get out completely. I really don't want that. I would love to just keep Ford around and add Dodge into the fold and have 4 manufacturers. Because here's the other thing. I want 4 manufacturers because that only helps the sport in general. My whole rant earlier about the whole monopoly by 3 teams because of the three main manufacturers. My whole rant about that earlier. It would help if there was a 4th manufacturer entered into the fold where maybe a RFK or a Haas factory team or a Legacy Motor Club or Aspire or some, one of these, or an RCR, some other team that's way down on the totem pole when it comes to their manufacturers, their OEMs. They make a move, and I think out of all of these teams, I feel like RFK would be the one to make that move. Of moving from their respective OEM to Dodge and being the premier Dodge team in the hopes of taking that next step and finding more speed, getting more wins, being, again, the premier team within a manufacturer that would help them be more successful. That's my want. I want Dodge to be more involved within the sport and to keep Ford around across all 3 series. But Ford they've just removed themselves from the O'Reilly Series here. Which, like I said, to me, it gives me this bad feeling that they're just getting ready to slowly remove themselves completely from the sport. But my point earlier, what I was going to say is it worries me, honestly, of seeing the product that we see every single week when it comes to the O'Reilly Series, and the people running the sport even have the slightest inkling of wanting to change that. Like, this is the best thing you have on television right now, and you want to fuck it up? You want to change it to where we're going to make the cars completely different and make them electric cars? I'm not going to go into this whole rant again. I've already done it in previous episodes. Go back and listen to the previous episode. I already did a long rant on it. But like, that's what has me worried, is the fact that they see the product on their television screen. They see the feedback that they get of everybody and their mother going, this is the best thing that NASCAR has to offer. And you know what they hear from that? They go, yeah, I guess we should change it then. It's like, what the fuck? But anyways, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the weekend. The Cup Series race. Look, there is so much shit on this. We're gonna be playing some videos here. Let's do the quick one here. So the quick one is the Preece and Gibbs incident. Now, Preece had some interesting stuff that he said on the radio, and he basically said, look, because I can go find it here, but we don't need to play the video again. He said he was frustrated over the fact of how Gibbs was racing him, and you know, he was very frustrated over the fact that I could play this 30-second clip. I'll do this. But on the radio, he basically was screaming about the fact of like what everybody says about Gibbs, which is he races like a shithead and he gets away with it because his car is fast. And look, this is not exactly new. This has been a known thing. I don't know if honestly, what's funny is that this is the first thing I've heard about Ty Gibbs upsetting somebody on track in like forever. This is one of the main things that I praised Ty Gibbs about, was the fact that Ty hadn't upset anybody really since he got into the Cup Series full time. But funny enough, it didn't take too long since after he won, and now he's being fast, that it's more in people's faces and it's affecting more people. So Ryan Preece had a run-in with Ty, and he basically, I mean, there's no other way to say it. He basically didn't give Ty any breaks, according to what Ryan said, but he did get into him and he did wreck him. But let's go ahead and hear Ryan. There's a clip of Ryan Preece after the race here. This is what he made a comment on the Ty Gibbs incident here on pit road. So let's listen to what Ryan Preece had to say.
Do you want to talk to Ty in the future, in the next week?
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I hate that he wrecked, but decisions you...
Hold on. I have to stop because you can hear this is a very funny clip because of the fact you can hear the change in his voice. Like he's trying in his head to like think of a way of like talking around it. And then you can hear literally in his voice, the pitch change, indicating that he was like, you know what? I'm just going to be honest. Like, listen to it again.
I'll be honest with you.
To Ty in the future, in the next week?
I mean,
it's so much higher there. He's like, and then he immediately goes to...
I'll be honest with you.
He goes back to his normal voice of like, yeah, all right. I'll just be honest. Like, that's so funny. All right. Let's play it again here from the top.
Do you want to talk to Ty in the future, in the next week?
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I hate that he wrecked, but decisions you make on the racetrack, there are repercussions. And I try to race everybody with an amount of respect that I'd like in return. And when you don't do that, I'm not going to cut you a break. And that's what happened. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
What's weird to me is like, why is this just not expected? You know what I mean? Like, why is this just not commonplace? If somebody races you like a shithead, you should just race them like a shithead back. And yet this is why there's this infection of like F1 fandom within the sport that has just poisoned the well. And I'm sorry to any F1 fan out there, you have poisoned the well that is known as NASCAR by infecting your stupid, and yes, there's no other way to say it, stupid opinions on how motorsports should be done and how it should be officiated. And we don't have stewards here in NASCAR. The only steward we have, his name is Tony. Okay? We don't have these people up in the stands watching the race that make after the race fucking stupid ass 20-second penalties. I saw a clip of some F1 podcast, which I mean, there's no offense to the guys whatsoever. One of them's like a Ferrari fan. The other one, I don't even know, some just random guy. He wasn't showing off his fandom in the video. But there was a video I saw of some guy talking about something that was happening during the race. This is well after the race is over. So, like, any casual that may have tuned into, oh, by the way, Apple TV Plus, which, by the way, I'm never getting Apple TV. So I'm not watching F1 races anymore because it's on a specific streaming service that costs how much, and I'm not paying for another fucking streaming service just to watch F1. I'm not doing that. Anyways. But these guys were just talking about something that happened during the race, just casually, just recapping the race, kind of like how I am. And all of a sudden, one of the co-hosts go, yeah, so I think it was like Charles Leclerc got a 20-second penalty. And this is like probably like an hour or hours after the race. He goes, yeah, so-and-so or whoever is his other co-host, he goes, so-and-so, Charles Leclerc gets a 20-second penalty. By the way, the penalty was for the dumbest thing I had ever heard. It was for like roaming the track or something. It was the weirdest fucking stupid ass thing I'd ever heard. It was because of he was driving he was using up too much track, or he was driving off the track too much, or something like that. It was the dumbest fucking thing I had ever heard in my life. I almost bookmarked it so I could play it on the podcast, but I didn't remember to do it. Or it passed through my feed and I couldn't have a chance. But it was like, and then the guy was like upset, obviously, over the fact that his favorite driver, or a driver of his favorite team, got a 20-second penalty after the race. But like, it's those kinds of fans that are now infecting the sport in such a degree that it is so upsetting, to where I understand that there is a line where, okay, boys have at it can only go so far. I understand that there is a line to that. But there is also an implied thing within the sport that is expected amongst the now 36 drivers that are in the field every week to police each other, to where the people up in the tower are not the ones having to make judgment calls, because they are already so great at making judgment calls on other things. Could you hear the sarcasm in my voice there? But now it's like we've never expected them. And the expectation never was for the people up in the tower to make judgment calls and make penalties after the race of either suspending somebody or fining somebody or taking points away from somebody. The expectation was that the driver who was either wronged or somebody else within the field would help correct that. That if somebody did something stupid on the track that screwed somebody else up or got somebody else wrecked or caused something stupid to happen, that the drivers within themselves would police themselves and either would teach that guy a lesson by either getting back at him at the next race or the next couple weeks or something, or a conversation would be had amongst themselves to where it would be hashed out either with words or with fists. That is, again, a lot of what the sport was built on. You taught each other amongst the guys that you raced with. The veterans helped teach the young guys. And they helped teach them, again, by certain different ways. The expectation is never and never was for the people in the tower to get involved in any way, shape, or form. It was such a rarity back in the day that anybody would be getting fucking points penalties or fines or suspensions because of things that they did on the track. It was such a rarity. It was only for the most egregious things on that you could ever see would be the reasons why you would get a litany of different kinds of penalties. It would just be the most egregious thing on the planet. Something as simple as something like this that Preece did, or like Kyle Busch did, which we'll get to in a second, is policed amongst themselves. And so in this case, if again, Ty Gibbs did something to Ryan Preece to upset him, raced him in a tough way or something like that. Well, then it's Ryan Preece's job to teach Ty a lesson and to show Ty, because here's the thing. It not only helps Ty understand this is what you can't do this to people on track, but it also allows Ryan to show not only Ty, but other people that, hey, you can't race me like that because I'm not going to put up with it. Instead, if Ryan just let it go and didn't do anything and was sitting there begging the fucking people in the tower to make a decision of penalizing Ty in some way, shape, or form, well then, number one, the people in the tower wouldn't probably do anything. And number two, it makes Ryan look like a pushover. It makes him look weak. Like anybody can just race him hard and he'll just get out of the way. And yeah, he'll scream about it and cry about it on the radio, but he's never actually going to do anything. So it was a good thing that Ryan did that. And no, I'm not even coming from it from the perspective of like, Ty Gibbs, I don't like him, so therefore it's a good thing. No, that's not even the perspective I'm coming from. The perspective is what I said is Ryan showed everybody that you can't race me like that, and I'm not just going to put up with it, like he just said. He said, I want to be raced like how I race others. If I race you with respect, then I expect you to race me with respect back. And if you don't race me with respect, well, then guess what? I'm not going to race you with respect either. And that right there should be the expectation. If somebody fucks with you, you need to fuck with them back. And this now leads me into the Kyle Busch thing. This is honestly, besides the thing I kicked off the show with, this is the most talked about thing over the last 24 hours by a country mile. And of course, I'm saving this for the end of the show. Look, there is so much back and forth on this. It is quite literally split 50-50 from what I've seen. You are either 1,000% with Kyle Busch, or you are either 1,000% against him and want him retired, and you're with John Hunter and whatever. As far as the actual incident that happened on the backstretch, to me, it's a racing incident. That's all that is. To me, as far as the backstretch incident of the initial contact between the two, it's a racing incident. To me, neither one of them did anything wrong. If I'm just going to be 100% honest and fair, in my opinion, neither one of them did anything wrong. I understand, obviously, where John Hunter's coming from, which is just, I'm just sitting up here next to the wall. I'm just I'm not doing anything. I'm not turning left. I'm not, whatever. I'm just riding. I'm just trying to hold my position as best I can to get to the white and hopefully get a decent finish out of this. But I also understand Kyle Busch's perspective as well, which is, look, the entire day, everybody else was closer to the wall. I have my mark where I put my car every single time, the white hash mark, which I'll play a Denny Hamlin clip maybe later, but there's another Denny Hamlin clip where he's, again, can't wait to bash Kyle and can't wait to throw him under the bus and talk about how terrible he is. About how, well, if I was in that car, you know what? Fuck it. We're just going to play that. Let's go ahead and listen to Denny Hamlin's fucking perspective on this thing. Go ahead, Denny.
When we were to switch cars, I would not have been running in the hash marks down the back straightaway.
Kyle Busch and John Hunter Nemechek pleading the fifth on this one.
God bless Derek Nealon, his spotter.
All right, we haven't run in the top 10 in like 3 years. We're having a great day here today. Okay, nice, put a bag of ice in your crotch. Let's go.
I thought he was doing a great job trying to just put some
chilling his life. I would have pulled down to be in a better aerodynamic position to avoid getting drugged back. It just was not in a very good position no matter what. And then, yeah, I mean, he lost his shit going into turn 3. If we were to switch cars, I would not have been running in the hash marks down the back straightaway.
Kyle.
So I get it. If we were to switch cars, you know, obviously taking a shot at Kyle for their previous spat that they had. Again, it is different people, different perspectives, different instances. Kyle has his mark, which, by the way, he talks about like, oh, I would have pulled down. Number one, yes, I understand if we get technical Monday morning quarterback, the whole, yeah, I would have pulled away from him kind of thing is maybe smart. But again, at the same time, when you're racing, whatever it was, 200 some laps at this point with 2 to go, and your line that you've been using every single time is the white hash mark, and you've been putting your car in that exact same spot every single time, and every other time that you've done it, you've had no issues, you'd expect that the second to last time that you would go down that back straightaway for the entire race, it would be the same as the previous 200 some times. In the sense that they would be however close to the wall they were, and you'd have enough space to be able to be that close up the track as well. So I understand Kyle's perspective as well. So that's why I'm saying, as far as the incident, again, on the backstretch, it's a racing incident. That's what I chalk it up to. Funny enough, that's what Freddie Kraft said on DBC, and as a one thing I can probably agree with him maybe ever is the fact that, yes, I agree. That was a racing incident. I'm putting no particular fault on either one. They're both to blame in their own ways. Now, as far as turn 3, Denny is obviously going to always and forever back the Toyota driver. Not to mention the fact that, look, there's a few things here that I wanted to bring up that happened on Twitter. Obviously, John Hunter made a comment about the incident saying, you know, not clear. I can try to pull up exactly what he said. If I can find the quotes for this. He said, quote, not freaking clear, which, by the way, doesn't even have the guts to say fucking. He said, not freaking clear. Great day going and just got wrecked. What an ass. Well, at least he had the balls to say ass. He said, what an ass. So, this is what Kyle said. Now, Kyle actually brought SMT data with him on this one. He said, quote, I did not start this. The 42 apparently doesn't know where the right RS, which is right side, of his car is and where he is in relation to the outside wall. There was 2 feet outside of him, and I was judging my left side tires to the hash marks. Always know who you're racing beside. So honestly, yeah, Kyle should... Here's the other thing that nobody is bringing up that I want to bring up. This is unrelated to this. As far as I know, to this particular incident, like I said, John Hunter, in reality, did nothing wrong. He held his particular line. Yes, was it a little bit farther away from the wall than Kyle probably thought or would have liked? Sure, but at the end of the day, yes, it was off-center from everybody else, according to the SMT data. But again, it's a racing incident. You know, shit happens. The only thing I will say, and the only defense in this that I will give Kyle, is that it is like a known thing. Besides this, if you go back and you look at some past incidents or people's comments on him over the last how many years, John Hunter is not good. And he's had a lot of shit that he's been involved in, that he's been the issue of, where he's either just made a dumbass mistake, where he's made a dumbass choice, where he's pissing people off with how he races, he's wrecked some people for almost no reason. That he is not a perfect person. He's not like the cleanest racer that has ever existed. John Hunter has had plenty of stupid shit that he's been involved in, that he's been the cause of time and time again. So, in the sense of like the grand scheme of things, not just this one incident, but I'm talking the grand scheme of things, he's not like a saint. So this is where I don't understand this whole like the side of people going like, oh, John Hunter, he never does anything wrong. He's, perfect. He's, he has no blame in this whatsoever. Again, it's a racing incident. They both take blame in their own respective rights. And to me, in any racing incident, both parties take blame. They both have a mistake that they both made that caused whatever to happen to happen. I'm dancing around this whole thing until we get to turn 3. I'm prefacing all the stuff that happens before turn 3. And this is why I think this happened. Is the point that I just made. As far as I remember, John Hunter has also had previous incidents with Kyle as well. This is why Kyle is like, I always know who you're racing beside. Because I think Kyle realized and was reminded, it's like, I maybe need to give this guy a bit more space because I've already had previous issues with him in the past. I don't need to have more issues with him now. So with that said, when it comes to the turn 3 thing, now there's still debate amongst people, and Kyle has not came out and said anything, which makes me believe he might have done something on purpose. Because if you didn't do anything on purpose and say the contact that you had with the outside wall was, enough to break a toe link or bend your steering out of line, or you can't turn very well because of it or whatever, usually you'd come out and say it. He's still got enough characters in that tweet to be able to say something about my right front being broken as I go into turn 3. And the fact that he didn't say it makes me think he may have turned John Hunter on purpose. Now, immediately, if you say that, people are going to jump to, well, he should be suspended. He should have points penalty on him. He should be fined. Something to that degree. But I don't think he should. Because again, the course should be that John Hunter gets him back. That should be ultimately how this goes. There should be no points penalty. There should be no fine. He shouldn't be suspended. He shouldn't be kicked out of Watkins Glen. He shouldn't. There should be no penalty whatsoever. It should be on John Hunter to take to take his balls out of his purse and to do something about it. John Hunter either believes or thinks or knows maybe that he got wrecked on purpose. If that's the case, take your fucking balls out of your purse and do something about it. Now, in the grand scheme of things, if you go out and wreck the 8 car, is it really going to make a difference in the grand scheme of things? No. Kyle has been in no contention whatsoever to win any race this entire season, and it doesn't look like he's going to be in any contention to win any race for the rest of this season. That 8 car has been slow literally up until this weekend. Kyle showed speed at Daytona to start the season, and literally every single race since then, he's been bad. The car has been bad. He's been slow. They've ran 20th to 30th pretty much every single race besides this one, where all of a sudden he found speed out of nowhere and was running top 5 and running top 10 the whole fucking race. So, in the grand scheme of things, if John Hunter goes out and wrecks Kyle within the next couple weeks and just destroys his car and takes him out of a race, is it really going to mean much? No. It's really not going to mean much. Now, if he waited until, the off chance that Kyle has another good run in the next X amount of races, which is extremely unlikely, and then takes him out then when he actually has a good day, then it might mean something. But in the grand scheme of things, if he goes out in the next X amount of weeks and wrecks him from, 25th, it really doesn't mean anything. It's inconsequential at that point. Kyle has no chance of making the chase. He has almost no chance of winning a race this season or even being in contention to win a race. But even though that is the case, it is still about the principle of standing up for yourself in that scenario of, I believe I did nothing wrong, and he did nothing wrong in that scenario, and being able to say, I did nothing wrong, and yet you intentionally wrecked me for doing nothing wrong and just being involved in a racing incident, and you got upset in that moment and just said, fuck you, you're not finishing ahead of me, and wrecked me on purpose. It's on John Hunter to stand up for himself. And more guys need to do that. More guys need to be able to stand up. I don't care that Kyle Busch is an elder statesman and he's one of the longest standing guys in the Cup Series and he's taller than you and he's bigger than you and maybe he barks louder than you and is more intimidating than you. I don't care about that shit. At the end of the day, you should be able to be a man and stand up for yourself and your team. Because even if not for yourself, stand up for your team. Your guys work their fucking asses off. You know it, John Hunter, better than anybody. Your guys work their asses off every single week to try to get better, to try to close that gap to the other Toyota cars, to try to close the gap to the other teams in general, trying to find speed, trying to find ways to finish top 15 or top 10 or get something out of each week in the hopes that you can get a little bit closer to maybe finishing top 5 and doing it more often and maybe having a chance at winning. It's a long process to get this Legacy Motor Club team to get anywhere close to some of these other teams are. And you had a good run going, which is, again, similar to Kyle, one of the very few that you'll probably get this season. And it got ruined because of some small little racing incident. And then Kyle deciding that you're just not going to finish the race and destroying your car and putting you into the infield. So it's on you again to stand up for yourself and do something about it. I don't want to see any penalty. I don't want to see any suspensions. I don't want to see anything from the people in the tower. I want John Hunter to stand up for himself. Take a page out of the Ryan Preece book. You don't like the way you raced? Do something about it. And maybe, just maybe, actually, I don't even think maybe, I know you'll get some more fans out of it. More people. Here's the other funny thing too. Take away, he'll get more fans. He'll get some fans. Because who the fuck is a John Hunter Nemechek fan right now? Find me one. I bash the people that are Joey Logano fans or Denny Hamlin fans. At least there's a reason. At least those guys win races and win championships. What the fuck has John Hunter done? Nothing to warrant a fan so far. And maybe if John Hunter stood up for himself, maybe he might get some more fans. He might get some more attention. And funny enough, the more fans you get, the more attention you get, the more often sponsors actually maybe were interested in you. And the better chance that you might get to stay in that 42 a little bit longer. Because I'll go ahead and say on the record right now, if a 2311 car does not open up, if that 35 car that Riley Herbst has been driving, if that thing does not open up next year, I already heard Jimmy Johnson talking about they got their third charter set up for next year in 2027. And it's going to be that 84 car that Johnson's been running part-time. So now that 84 car is now going to be a full-time car every single week. And oh, by the way, that car probably will be filled, as I said, if the 35 car does not change hands and they keep Riley Herbst, that 84 car is going to get filled by Corey Heim. And I'm telling you, Corey Heim is better than John Hunter Nemechek. I don't need to see any long term. I don't need to be like, oh, let's wait and see. No. Nope. Corey Heim is better than John Hunter Nemechek, and it's not close. He is a better racer than John Hunter Nemechek. So John will now go from second best guy on his team to third best guy on his team. Do you want to keep your car? Probably need to get some more fans. This is already John Hunter's second run in Cup. He was already with Front Row the X amount of years ago and was god-awful. And then he had to go back to the Truck Series to find himself again. And now he's back here in the Cup Series again. And again, he's just existed. He's just existed. And he's still just existing. Now, I understand, at the end of the day, not everybody can be a champion. Not everybody can win races. Not everybody can just go out there and impress every single week and, you know, really earn their ride. But in the world of NASCAR now, where it's very quickly rotating guys in and out, it's very quickly, teams are more apt to just find somebody else in the O'Reilly Series or the Truck Series that maybe has a little bit more potential than the guy they already have. There's a reason why Bowman's probably going to be removed from the 48 here, if not this year, then probably soon. It's because consistency isn't enough. In most people's eyes nowadays, consistency just isn't enough. So, now, when it comes to the Kyle Busch side of this, should Kyle have wrecked John Hunter? The answer is obviously no. Because even on the surface of it, I know that Kyle's not going to show it, but if he had any sort of wherewithal, he would feel pretty stupid right now. And look, I've been singing Kyle Busch's praises for the last couple weeks, defending him, obviously from the whole Denny Hamlin thing. But even though I think that Kyle Busch is still very talented and a very good racer, and he's stuck in a piece of shit car, even though that is, and oh, by the way, that was found out to be true this weekend because Kyle Busch was able to get that 8 car into the top 5 for most of the day, top 10 for most of the day. Where was his teammate? Nowhere to be found. Austin Dillon was just barely breaking the top 20 at points. Most of the time was outside the top 20. So what was that about Kyle Busch being washed? Anyways, that will be my only defense of him on this one, because on the surface level of this, you have struggled all year. It is as his crew chief said, we haven't had a fucking top 10 in 3 years. I mean, it's been awful. I mean, they've literally been terrible for how long now? This year probably being the worst of all the previous years that they've struggled. And you finally get one. You finally get a race where you're running top 5 and you've got a top 10 right in your sights, and you overreact and you throw it away for what? For nothing. For, yes, a racing incident that in the moment you were extremely upset by, which I already know if Kyle were to be asked about this, I already know what Kyle's response is going to be. Kyle's response will just simply be, what is really the fucking difference between 10th and 20th? We're already 25th or something in points. We have no chance of making the chase. We're already so far behind. There's no shot. We don't have the speed every week to be able to make the chase or even try to work our way for the rest of the season and make the chase, we're done. We got no shot. So what really is the difference between 10th and 20th? And to that I say, okay, fine. I get his perspective. But in this case, it's more about the point was not like the point of making that move really didn't make much sense either, of just intentionally wrecking him like that. I understand in the moment he's not going to finish ahead of me. I'm going to do anything and everything it takes that he's going to finish behind me. But even if you didn't want him to finish ahead of you, don't intentionally wreck him. To me, and this is again the fan side coming out of it, maybe rough him up or something. I don't know. Try to race him hard as he tries to go by you, coming off a 4 or something. But like, in this case, this is where you do go confront him on pit road. And you get in his face. I mean, like I said, John Hunter is a small, petite, scared little man. There's no other way to say it. He would be shitting, and this is what's funny, is like Kyle Busch compared to all these other people is like the most intimidating guy, and it only is just because he's willing to go up and talk to people. That's the only reason why he's intimidating to these other drivers. It's just because he's willing to talk to people. And he's willing to confront them. And what's funny is, like, I already know if Kyle Busch were to confront John Hunter about this after the race, John Hunter would be literally shitting his pants. He'd be terrified of him. He would be. Because Kyle would be towering over him. And like I said, John Hunter's already a scared little guy as it is. And then you add Kyle Busch, who's going to be yelling at him and getting in his face. He's just not going to be able to, he's not going to be able to take it. He'll just sit there and like probably start crying. So this is where it's like, okay, Kyle, I get it. In the grand scheme of things, I get it. You've given up. You don't care. You're just out there racing and you really don't care about the finish. I understand. But at the same time, you made the wrong decision. In that moment, you made the wrong decision because ultimately it did cost you fucking 10 positions. And where you could have actually had a top 10 finish and walked away somewhat with your head held high, knowing that you've made progress and you got the result that you were expected to get. Now you took a 10th place car and finished 20th. So it was the wrong move. It was the wrong move. And look, even if, like I said earlier, if Kyle felt like he was wronged and that he got wrecked by John Hunter in that moment, obviously not seeing the SMT data and not seeing that it was a racing incident and all this other stuff, just thinking that maybe even thinking that John Hunter turned down into him and wrecked him or something, whether on purpose or accident. Again, you could do both, confront him on pit road and make him cry, and you can wreck him later on. When John Hunter has a good day going later on down the road, you can wreck him. It's the same thing he did to Riley Herbst. Like and what's funny about the Riley Herbst thing is this here. So I'm gonna bring this clip up. Because this is, again, hearing this type of conversation just makes me cringe, but I'm going to play it anyways. Listen to this clip.
Is this not the second time Kyle Busch has cleaned somebody out this month in retaliation, right? Because the Riley Herbst thing at Bristol, was it? Obviously, no action was taken there.
By the way, he didn't intentionally wreck Riley Herbst. This has already been debunked. This has already been talked about and broken down. He didn't wreck Riley Herbst on purpose. He didn't just left hook him. Riley got loose off the corner. This is the incident we're talking about, is Bristol. Riley got loose off of the corner in front of Kyle, and Kyle didn't cut him a break because Kyle wasn't going to cut him a break, because earlier in that race, Riley did just wreck Kyle Busch going into like turn 1 or something. So Kyle remembered that it was the 35 that wrecked him. So then when the 35 was literally out of control in front of him and loose off the corner in front of him, Kyle just didn't back off and allowed Riley to spin himself off of Kyle's nose. So that idea, by the way, of like Kyle is intentionally wrecking people like crazy out here, that's already been debunked. This is the first time it actually probably happened. And by the way, again, the whole thing of like, if I was in Kyle's shoes and that happened to me and it actually was something broken in my car, I would have just said I didn't intentionally wreck him. There was something broken in the right front. But the fact that Kyle didn't mention that, it doesn't mean that he did it intentionally, but it does kind of somewhat make people believe that he did it intentionally. But I'm bringing this up to say we're all thinking he did it intentionally, but it's not actually known for sure yet. It's just the majority is assuming.
So the question, Jordan, is will NASCAR take a look at this? It's not a right rear hook, but it was a pretty aggressive, intentional retaliation there. Is this something that could be penalized?
Could be, potentially, especially you're on a high-speed mile-and-a-half racetrack and you're going into a corner. This overall, though, whether there's a penalty or not, this is just poor decision-making if you're Kyle Busch. You got a new crew chief this week, new beginning, fresh start. You come here, you qualify well. You have a very sound race. You really, the most complete race this team has probably had all year, beginning to end. And instead you get involved in this tit for tat fighting over 12th, and you end up finishing 20th. And now you got John Hunter Nemechek who's mad at you. There's a lot of blame on the season on where this team is at right now. And some of it falls on Kyle's shoulders. And today specifically falls on his shoulders and why they didn't finish better than they did.
I personally don't think that it should be a penalty. A penalty that's a right rear hook where you turn somebody into the wall, that's egregious. That's dangerous. Door slamming somebody after you feel like you just got wronged is part of it. Yeah. That's part of this Cup Series racing. And that's the kind of stuff that self-police is on the track. I would hate to see NASCAR step in and discourage that at this point because, I mean, yeah, he wrecked them, but he also felt like he got wrecked. So they should be able to figure that out among themselves. Is this not?
So, yeah, funny. Thank you. You know, I bashed Jeff Gluck earlier about not being able to be an actual reporter, but he actually had a decent perspective there. So, shout out to Jeff Gluck, friend of the show, for having a good perspective there. But yeah, I mean, it is really that. It's a self-policing thing. It should come down to John Hunter doing something. Now, look, I will also say this. Do I think that John Hunter will actually do something to Kyle? I don't even think he has the balls to do something to Kyle. I really don't. I don't think he has the balls to actually try to go out there in the next month or so of racing around him and actually doing something to him. I do not believe it. Will he probably race him hard or not give him any room? Maybe, yeah, probably. That'll be his way of, quote, getting back at him. But as far as like actually wrecking him back, no. I don't believe that John Hunter has the balls to do that even for a second. Sorry to any John Hunter fans out there or John Hunter himself. I'm sorry, but that is just the truth. You don't have the balls to actually go out and do anything to Kyle Busch that actually means anything. You will just probably, when you see him on track, maybe not give him a lot of space or maybe block him once or twice and make it hard for him to get around you, or you just make his life hard as far as racing, but you won't actually do anything. You won't actually wreck him. You won't actually retaliate. You won't. I already know that. Because nobody really does. It's such a rarity for people to actually retaliate. That's why it's like, you know, Kyle Busch doing something is really like, it's you know, the only likely chance. It's the only likely person that'll actually do something is Kyle. So, okay. We're running pretty long, so I'm going to run through some last minute stuff here before we wrap up the show. My top 10, I did not do one last week because, again, I was just too wrapped up in the Carson Hocevar thing, and I also kind of forgot to do a top 10 last week. So this week's top 10 is a little bit different. We got some new names in here and some other names moving up the list here. So number 10, I have Chris Buescher. I did not have him on the list a couple weeks ago, but he's been running too well and running too consistently for me to ignore it. He had himself another top 5 finish here this past weekend at Texas and had a very good run. So cannot ignore that good finish and cannot ignore him being on the top 10 anymore. So he has reached himself into 10th. 9 is his teammate Ryan Preece. Now I already know what some people might be thinking is, how the hell is Ryan Preece ahead of Chris Buescher? Again, the expectation is that, it's much lower for Ryan Preece. Chris Buescher has had more consistent success. Not to mention the fact that Preece has been just as consistent as Chris Buescher has. And he's had more, I feel like he's had more good success as of late, comparatively. So I have him just ahead at 9. 8 is Kyle Larson. Now, Larson is barely hanging on in this top 10. And honestly, I almost don't know if I should have him on the top 10 because, again, the expectation is that Hendrick Motorsports car should be running up front, winning races and being fast, and him and Logano still haven't won this year. The Logano thing isn't very surprising to me. I think Logano at this point is the most overrated driver in NASCAR, period, by a country mile. And even though Larson, in the back of my mind, Larson is not too far off of that, if I'm being totally honest. He is obviously much better than Logano. So he's ran better. He's had some better finishes, some more top 5s, some more stage points and such. And I still think that he'll get a win pretty soon. It's just more of, I've chalked it up to the Chevy thing, but now that Elliott's got a few wins under his belt and there's some more Chevy guys getting other wins and Larson doesn't have one yet, not to mention that him wrecking here at Texas this past weekend too doesn't help. So he's down to 8. 7, Chase Briscoe. I don't know what happened to him at the end of this race. It is a new thing every week with him where he has speed. He's good. He's obviously has a chance to win the race, and something new happens seemingly every effing week at this point. This week, I know it was like, oh, he had some damage, but he dropped like a fucking rock out of nowhere from being in the top 10, or excuse me, even the top 5. He dropped like a freaking rock and went to the back. Last car in the lead lap was a lap down by the end of the thing. And it is so obvious. When we get to the chase, because I believe that Chase Briscoe will still obviously make the chase. I think he will be one of the top 16 guys in the chase. When we get to the chase, if you want to pick somebody who is going to be a true dark horse underdog in the chase to maybe win the championship, it's Chase fucking Briscoe. This dude has had bad thing after bad thing after bad thing happen to him. It's like, hey, maybe he's getting all of his bad luck out of the way early in the season, and then the second half he's going to just tear through the field, and he'll stop having all these issues, and he'll finally finish where he's been running. But boy, oh boy, I don't understand it. I really don't. 6 is Carson Hocevar, coming off the heels, obviously, of his Talladega win. He's still riding high. He still finished 8th. Had some stage points in both stages. I think he finished 2nd in the first stage as well. So, the guy is still riding high. He's still got some speed, and he's going to be riding that momentum for a minute. So do not be surprised if Carson keeps these good finishes going. It's like the Ty Gibbs thing. Which, speaking of Ty Gibbs, I still have Ty Gibbs at 5. There was a part of me that thought I should have swapped him, but the only reason I have Gibbs ahead of Hocevar is that Gibbs, over the entire course of the season, has had a bit better finishes overall. Even though Gibbs, obviously, he, was wrecked in this past race at Texas and he's had a bit more issues as of late, not having the car under him that he had in the previous few weeks. But I still have him ahead of Carson because he's had more better consistent finishes over the season so far. So 4 is Ryan Blaney, drops a spot. Listen, somebody posted the graphic that Fox put up during the race, the rankings for that 12 team. And I think it's like passing, maybe it was speed was the second one, and like pit crew was the third one. But the first two were obviously to do with, setup and driver more specifically. And the third one was obviously just the pit crew. The first two, Ryan Blaney was ranked 3rd and 5th, I think. And the pit crew, he was ranked 35th. Now, I understand that they just made a pit crew change. And I also understand that, like, some people have explained, well, it's magnified how bad his pit crew is ranked because of the fact that he's up front, and because his pit crew is just a bit slower and has had some more struggles, they're ranked so much lower because of how much spots they're actually losing. So if, the whole idea of like, oh, if he was not running as well, then they wouldn't be as badly ranked. It doesn't change the fact that I've never seen a pit crew as of late have as many issues as Ryan Blaney has. And you hear him on the radio now talking to his pit crew whenever they do make another mistake. At this point, he's not even mad. He's just wildly disappointed and dejected, where he's just like, guys, please, can we just, like, he's like at the point where he's like, can you just maintain, don't even gain me spots, just maintain where I'm at, please. It's like a desperate plea for just some help from him. 11. 3rd is the 11 car of Denny Hamlin. I dropped him a spot. I think I would have had him 2nd last week. Where did I have him at Kansas? Oh, I bumped him up a few spots. I had him 5th back at Kansas, the last rankings I did. Or after Kansas, I should say. But I got Denny 3rd here. He's shown speed, finished 2nd here at Texas as well. Even though I know he thinks in his head that he could have had a shot at beating Chase, but he just didn't have the speed for it. But he was I still have him 3rd here on this list. Speaking of Chase, number 2, I have Chase Elliott. Another win for the season. Has shown consistent speed almost every week. And again, like I said at the beginning of the season, and like others have already said as well, that is the biggest help for Chase Elliott. And that's the biggest key as to why Chase is going to do so much better, I think, in this format than the playoff format, is he is truly Mr. Consistency. He's not the guy who's going to go out there and win 8, 10 races in a season, but he's the guy that's going to get you the most amount of top 5s, the most amount of top 10s. He's going to finish better than usually where his car runs or should run, and he's going to not make any mistakes. He's going to stay out of trouble, and he's always going to finish solidly. And so that's going to be amazing for him as far as pointing himself in this chase here once we get to the end of the season. And so, yeah, I mean, just won here at Texas and one of the fastest cars when he was out front. Obviously, he's going to have one of the fastest cars when he's out front, but led the most laps. One of the fastest cars of the weekend. And so, yeah, number 2 for Chase Elliott with another win here at Texas. And number 1, I still have to put Tyler Reddick. Reddick showed speed as well at Texas. I mean, he was top 3 towards the end of the race. I think he was just having some car issues. I know he was complaining about some right side tires there, but listen, you can't win every race. And he's still showing great speed. So Reddick at number 1 still. So there's your top 10. Tyler Reddick 1, Chase Elliott 2, Denny Hamlin 3, Ryan Blaney 4, Ty Gibbs 5, Carson Hocevar 6, Chase Briscoe 7, Kyle Larson 8, Ryan Preece 9, and Chris Buescher rounds out the top 10. So we head towards Watkins Glen this weekend. I got some different names as far as ones to keep an eye on. It is the most obvious names, though, you can think of as far as going to a road course and Watkins Glen more specifically. Number 1 is SVG. SVG will most likely either finish 1st or 2nd in this race. He's one of the best road course racers. Now, I understand, it's Watkins Glen. It's a little bit less technical, so maybe there's a chance he isn't going to do as well. He'll still finish top 5, top 10 at least, even if he has issues on pit road or something like that. he'll still do very well. So keep an eye on SVG, obviously. And I think the other one too, listen, I didn't mention this, but Texas, Trackhouse struggles for the entire season. And this past weekend at Texas, they finally got some good finishes. Ross finished top 10. And the other one that nobody was mentioning is like SVG and Connor Zilic both finished in the top 20, which maybe not SVG. SVG has shown speed at some ovals throughout this season. Like every now and then you'll see him in the top 20. It's not often, but every now and then. Connor Zilic is the one that has been the black spot on that team, where it is just he's running 30th or worse a lot of the time. So for him to run top 20 there at Texas was a huge win for him. And I think he's going to ride that momentum going into Watkins Glen here, and he's going to be another one to watch. I got SVG and Connor Zilic. I know, shocking. I picked the two best road course racers in the field probably to keep an eye on. But Connor already showed great speed at COTA earlier this year on a road course. Got wrecked multiple times at COTA, and yet somehow still was able to get himself back into the top 10 on multiple times. So keep an eye on Connor. Keep an eye on SVG. The other one is Chris Buescher. He's riding high right now on good speed. He's the one that is a you don't really think of Chris Buescher as being like a road course ringer, but he's the one that really has been showing good speed that I would think would continue that speed into Watkins Glen and run pretty well. He's had pretty good success in the past at Watkins Glen. And then my fourth one is Allmendinger. AJ Allmendinger has won in the past at Watkins Glen. Granted, I think this was like 2014. But I know he's good there. He's also a pretty sneaky good road course racer. Colleague has kind of somewhat struggled on speed. You know, they're a low-end Chevy team, so they're not going to be great. And Allmendinger usually isn't very good on ovals comparatively to road courses, obviously. So I would expect Allmendinger to show up top 10 guy, maybe a top 5 guy if they've got the speed this weekend. My underdog is actually Ty Gibbs. I feel like Ty Gibbs is one of the most underrated road course racers that we currently have. And again, a lot of it is to do with the fact that he hasn't shown speed really up until this season. But now that it is this season and he's shown speed as of late and he has a win under his belt, he's my underdog to keep an eye on going into Watkins Glen this weekend. And he's going to have that JGR speed under him to be able to compete with some of these other road course guys. So those are my guys to keep an eye on heading into this weekend at Watkins Glen. And Jesus Christ, this was a long one. 2 hours and 37 minutes. So I'm going to get out of here. I want to thank everybody for listening. Hope you all enjoyed this episode. This was a long one. I spent like an hour on the Jeff Dickerson, I hadn't talked about that lawsuit in a minute. So I think it was appropriate for me to spend a good amount of time talking about the Jeff Dickerson stuff and giving it some time. The Spire and Gabe Hart and JGR lawsuit stuff. I think it was appropriate to give it that much time. But we got Watkins Glen this weekend. Hopefully some more newsworthy stuff can drop throughout the week so we can have something to talk about going into next week's show, because I can't imagine too craziest stuff is going to happen at Watkins Glen. But now that I say that, maybe we'll actually get some interesting stuff. So I think all 3 series are at Watkins Glen as well. I think it is Trucks O'Reilly Series Cup. I'm pretty sure. I'm going to double check here. I mean, hell, if you made it this far, I appreciate you for listening this far into the show, but I don't really think in my mind that this many people are, the 80 some people. I saw 80 some people tuning into the Carson Hocevar show last week. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in to that one. It's cool to see that many people tuned in last week. I know I know Carson having Carson on as my thumbnail probably got enough people to tune in interested, but anyways, it is all 3 series, I'm pretty sure. But anyways, thank you all so much for listening. Hope you all enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you're on YouTube. Also, check out the show on Spotify. Not enough. None of you guys fucking click on Spotify. What the fuck's up with that? Seriously. That's not cool. You should if you're a true committed I almost said NASCAR fan. If you're a true committed Coop radio fan, you should be clicking on both the YouTube video and the Spotify link and go listen to it on Spotify. I mean, this show is really designed for you to listen to it on Spotify. It's not designed for you to listen to it on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like, it's easy for you to put it on Spotify. My camera's not on my camera's not on. You can't see my face. So listen to it on Spotify every now and then. Gotta get those Spotify numbers up. There's like nobody who's listening to it on Spotify. What the fuck? Anyways. Thank you all again for listening. Hope you all enjoyed this long ass fucking episode. And I will see y'all next Tuesday. Take it easy.